Okay, with an overview.
So we're already. Now is when we save the world. This debate doesn't leave the room. Any and the impacts external to the one ECR are irrelevant to this discussion. Instead, this debate should be oriented ourselves to producing better forms of pedagogy. That's the Lewis evidence. Nowadays, you can see the three family questions. First is the taskful education. It's a self-purification process that always is oriented violently against the other. That's always fails and produces more monsters causing the impacts that they fear to happen inevitably. We call this an escalated blowback. 9/11 was the example of the system. When terrorists attacked, there was not a singular enemy. Instead, anyone who was brown was monsterized and eliminated. Now, two, the monsters, the perfect domestic foreigner. They're always inside and outside of what is considered a community. The monsters created other. Our affirmation of that monster produces the imagination is necessary to deconstruct the community as it is rebuilding it anew through the lens of the monsters. Now, third, our affirmation creates mechanisms to engage the status quo. We call this the bestiary. This maps out the boundaries of the status quo. The bestiary charts out everything that is inside and outside, producing what we call an exopedagogy. This is the key affirmation of the monster creates an education outside the norm. These forms of education are key to this the status quo notions of community to rebuild it without the inclusive exclusion of the other. Now, when we tell you to draw a line, we're telling you to draw a line, and as we draw that line, we chart out the imaginative vectors of what leads to exclusion and exclusion. And when we create that bestiary, we destroy those lines and then erase them so we can understand and how to engage with the other, how to engage with things like work. Because in the world we only purify it, is the world where we only replicate it. They conceded the Bourdieu evidence. None of their indices actually make sense. In the answer back is Warren said that when in the world when we destroy evil, evil does not go anywhere. Instead, it becomes more invisible, becomes more insidious, it becomes more opaque. In the world where we can't see evil, evil can strike at us anytime. Now there are two impacts that they're conceiving. First, the point is reversibility. Sure, this indicates that the more we try to fight terrorism, the more terrorist monsters we create. And even though we do it for security's sake, the only makes us less security and vulnerable. Now they say they'll say they don't link to this, but when they try to stop war, they're trying to stone me. When they try to stop war, they'll try to stop all forms of terrorism, stop all forms of violence, stop all forms of everything. But when a world where we just erase those things, we don't understand how we got there in the first place. Now, Beast's point is public deliberation, and all of the impacts of understanding things like politics indicates that those things are already dead because they've been taken from us, i.e. the open-ended war and terrorism led Americans to believe that they are superior, i.e. their exceptionalism claim, thus proving the war is not only because of validity, but because they created a monster. Now, D is the death of all politics. The 1AC is a pedagogical intervention attempting to preserve the ontological hygiene of community, i.e. trying to keep it perfect, that denies the fact that their attempts to tame the monster will fail. The very existence of the politics relies on the existence of the monsters. Now, they only read an overglorified framework debate on the criticism. This is laughable. One, the counter-interpretation, the affirmative shot, the justification behind the 1AC preferred, or framing the predictable when real-world judges are educators, not policy. You don't have the ability to actually put the plan to deflect. What you do have the ability to criticize their framing of the world. Now, terms limits their ability to demarcate lines of willful ignorance of violence in America is nothing but a reification of American neoliberal imperialism. Now, there is no internal link to policy education. Fiat is illusory. We know nothing about how to enter into policies through the affirmative framing. Now, they say vague, also cross-sex check your offense. Also not vague. It's pretty clear. We're literally drawing a line and then erasing it with the bestiary. Now, roll of the ballot. We meet their roll of the ballot. They say it's best who best deconstructs militarism. Our narrative of deconstructing the militaristic mindset of what led us to this point is best going to be solving this. But we have a counter on a roll of the ballot. The judges to be an exilic intellectual. Now is the time to take the mantle of the exile. Provides a unique destructive perspective on normalcy. That one, this figures the normal pedagogies as always opposed to the outside education, and two, creates exopedagogy to deconstruct barter systems. Now they make a pretty damning argument here. They say specificity outweighs, but you have not read an argument that is specific to the criticism. We'll concede the warrant of specificity, hold them to a high threshold on any of the arguments to the criticism. Now they say we're going to show the internal links to all of their to the entirety of their 1AC endless war. The 1AC is an impact turn. Where the warrant here is only prevention checks. The sureness indicates that prevention fails, creates the other to make it and other to destroy that makes the war inevitable anyway. When we try to pull out a war, it just makes war happen. Now exopedagogy solves this by providing the bestiary to maps out distinctions of what make the elimination of difference possible. Without our interpretation, the squo elimination of all things doesn't conform to the perfect in order to become what possible. Now this is nothing but the 1AC is nothing but a self-fulfilling prophecy. One, it already happened. That's escalated rollback. We did that work above, cross the that from the overview. Now this doesn't, yeah. Okay. They say ISIS, but we control the internal links to utilitarianism. We are faced with the mass destruction of the other. No reason why the negatives monster doesn't also operate under this framework. Now, this is nothing but conservative moralism. To them, consequences only matter if you're not the monster. Now, this utilitarian calculus only matters in the world where we read a policy option. The question here is if they get access to this calculus in the first place. Now, the negative is the reason why util is structurally flawed. There is always an other that goes excluded from these calculations, i.e. when we talk about the inside and the outside, those outside what is considered in the normal inside are excluded from what is inside of the utilitarian calculus. Those who are affected by the evil that they make invisible will still be affected and not inside of what they see as utilitarianism. Now, they've conceded the Rodriguez card. They didn't do enough work here. We got to the warrant of legal storytelling, implement in place all of the cards that they put on the criticism because it indicates that the state constantly tells stories about itself. This legal storytelling replicates and mobilizes the institutions that wage fierce wars on its internal enemies, those being those all outside and inside the bounds of normalcy and normalcy, but those who do not and cannot mobilize inside this state violence one provides two things. A's point is justification for all foundations of U.S. international policies. That means we probably control the root cause to the 1AC, and B's point is the violence normalization, and once again it's the red reversibility claim that they only normalize the violence that happens in the 1AC. Now they say role-playing gut extensioners, and he impacts this logic says that they lead to the war of the monster. We can role-play, but only to the extent of choice. We do not choose to role-play the state because we are the monster. The state's targets now. This always fails. Their alternative fails. The utopian view of equality opposes the monster by trying to rid the war of world through a combination. The monster is reduced to nothing as a means of overcoming such critical halls are always affected by anthropocentristic assumptions of denying the end goal of such strategies. This is Lewis and Kahn and tend to produce monsters' imaginations, democratize the economic and cultural social system, the discriminatory or exploitive. Much of the critical theory is located in this quadrant in the opposition. The human community is privileged as a hero of taming the irrational beast using tools of reason. Important with many civil rights and proletarian structures, the monster is reduced to the allegory of the human system has gone terribly wrong. The political is organized around the killing of the monster to overcome alienation. Now they make a couple of permutations, but they have not described to you what the permutation will work as. You can't literally advocate for the plan and draw a line to deconstruct it first. We are probably going to be we are definitely a precondition to the entirety of the 1AC because in the world where you vote affirmative first, then you are voting for the status quo, which will only replicate the impacts that they are seeking to solve for. Now that is the Baudrillard reversibility claim and the sureness claim that indicates that they only seek to normalize the violence that they are going to solve for. Now they say objective criticism is good and they can do the plan and then do the alternative, but this is nothing but a time frame permit. It doesn't actually make sense. You can't do the plan first because if you do the plan first, you nearly make the evil more invisible and more opaque, and that's probably the problem that's definitely the problem that we're talking about. Now we have already answered every one of your framework cards. You make one really stupid argument in case that the root causes are not the systems of thought. Now this probably takes out the entirety of the 1AC because it indicates that systems of thought are problematic when you base your criticisms also of it. Now they are basing the criticism of critiquing militaristic thought. That probably takes out the entirety of the 1AC, means they probably don't have a 1AC. You can vote negative on presumption here. Now they make a couple of defensive arguments against Baudrillard, but this doesn't answer Baudrillard's warrants. Indicates that reduplication and simulacra and simulation is problematic, but this isn't Baudrillard. It indicates that the world is reversible and that when we try to make evil more invisible, when we try to purify the world of evil, we only make that more invisible. Now we have a couple of links to just war. The violence is inevitable. This makes our moral duty to expose violence. A just war is uniquely key to exposure and justice. This is Exxon and 30 the word over the question being organized, hitting unacceptable because they violate not the only civic peace but the framework of justice. Peace is good and so is justice, but neither is an absolute good. Considered the force of the combat Japanese militarism, the World War II defeating Japan and the war occupying Japan and the aftermath of imposing the constitutional order did not incite for the Japanese aggression and the sort of witness in the full horror that what can be known as the rape of Malaraka. Yes. Do that right now.
Where does he have claim to solve terrorism?
What?
Where does he have claim to solve terrorism?
Yeah, I actually implicated that claim. That when you try to solve for war, when you say literally in cross-ex, this is a unique link that you solve for all war, that's trying to solve for all forms of terroristic violence, all forms of warfare.
Forms of warfare that the United States imposes on other individuals. We don't really claim to solve for other countries.
No, the question that I asked in the first cross-ex was, will the AF defend ending all war? You said yes. If you're changing your answer now, that's probably problematic.
Okay, fair. Where does the claim to solve for terrorism, specifically?
Okay.
That is not a form of warfare.
There is this thing called the War on Terror. There's this thing called
Sure,
terroristic
war
violence.
on terror. That's
Yes.
the United States striking
There's this
individual
thing
bodies.
called
I'm asking
terroristic
about,
violence.
No, that's not the question I'm asking. If terrorists were to attack the United States, where does the affirmative claim to solve for that form of attack?
What?
Where does the affirmative claim to solve for that form of attack?
If terrorists attack the United States,
Yes.
when you try to purify the world of war, that means that's probably not
That doesn't
problematic.
make sense.
That does make sense. You try to purify the world of the war that is inevitable. That violence is inevitable. We need to draw that line and understand how
No,
we got to
that's
this point.
distinct from the question that I'm asking. That's talking about war. I understand that blurring of the line. I'm talking about terrorism specifically. You said that when the affirmative tries to solve for terrorism,
Yeah,
it replicates it.
that was-
I
I understand that. In the speech, I said, yeah, you tried to say you no link out of this, but I did implicate you further.
Okay, sure. Can you finish explaining that?
What specifically do you want to know?
That's fine. I'm moving on. You said you told us flaw because others are always excluded. What individuals does the act exclude?
Those that will be affected by the evil you seek to purify.
Okay, you're not making sense. You're answering my question with the evil
I
you
am.
seek to purify.
Yeah, you try to purify the world of evil, right? And say that, oh, we're so good, we're so perfect, but that's bad.
What does the affirmative try to purify the world of all evil? We can recognize
War.
that evil
You
exists.
try
in
to
other
purify the
instances.
world of war.
Sure, so
in the
war
world
now
where
is
we
all
do
forms of
that,
evil.
where does war go?
That makes no sense. How is war all forms of evil?
War is a form of evil that you try to purify.
Does evil exist outside of war?
What do you mean does evil exist outside
Does
of
evil
war?
exist outside
Your
of war?
specific form of evil is war. You try to purify the world of that. We have a link to that.
Okay, let's go back to the util debate. What individuals does affirmative exclude?
Okay, like I said, when the world is erased of all forms of evil, there are people who will be affected by that evil that is now more invisible. This is Baudrillard's claim. It's not a claim of simulation.
So the affirmative
it's not a claim
trying
of
to solve for
seduction.
extinction excludes individuals from having life. That doesn't really seem to make a causal connection, but that's fine.
Okay, sure. If you want to have that debate.
Can I have a Jeff drive, please?